Ever feel like, we're living in like the best of times and the worst of times all at once?
Yeah.
Well, that's the world Charles Dickens kind of throws us into.
Yeah.
In A Tale of Two Cities, right?
Definitely.
So in this, we're going to unpack this classic novel.
Okay.
We're going to dig into, the French Revolution, look at some critical essays about it,
right,
and even touch on like some psychological analyses of like the characters. What's striking about this book, right, is that Dickens doesn't just tell a story.
Yeah.
He
immerses you.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the chaos and the contradictions of this society that's on the brink.
Right.
He forces us to confront, I think, the complexities of just like human nature.
Right.
The inspiring and the terrifying.
So, okay, for those who haven't read it yet, imagine 18th century London and Paris.
Okay.
It's a world of like extreme wealth.
Right.
And at the same time, grinding poverty.
Of course.
And whispers of revolution are turning into roars.
Absolutely. And at the center of it all, you have this intricate web of characters.
Right.
Whose lives just become so entangled in the revolution's chaotic dance. You've got Doctor Manette, who's resurrected from the living death of the Bastille.
Right, right.
His daughter, Lucie, who's this like beacon of hope in this world that's gone mad. And Charles Darnay, who is the noble aristocrat who's trying to escape his family's, kind of troubled legacy.
Right. And of course, we can't forget Sidney Carton.
Oh, how could we?
This guy who seems to be like drowning in cynicism.
Yeah.
Yet like harbors a surprising depth of feeling.
Yes. And it's through these characters that Dickens is able to explore those timeless themes. Resurrection, sacrifice, social injustice. He takes us on this journey from the depths of despair to the heights of selflessness,
right,
all against this backdrop of a world that's just teetering on the edge of collapse.
Yeah. So let's start with Dr. Manette. His story is like, it's like a punch to the gut. 18 years imprisoned in the Bastille, completely isolated, driven to the brink of madness.
Wow.
The psychological toll of that kind of isolation, it's unimaginable.
Yeah. And what's so fascinating is Dickens doesn't just tell us about his trauma, right?
Right.
He shows it to us through his actions, his words, even his silences. We see how the prison has just stripped him of his identity. He's a shell of his former self.
Yeah. And then there's that, that heartbreaking scene where Lucie finds her father in a shoemaker's shop, lost in the fog of his trauma, barely clinging to reality.
It's so powerful, that scene, because it really reveals the long-lasting scars of injustice, Dr. Manette's imprisonment wasn't just physical, it was soul-crushing.
Right.
It left him deeply wounded, and it raises the question, can you ever truly recover from that kind of trauma?
Right. But Lucie, she's incredible.
He's amazing.
She becomes her father's lifeline, pulling him back from the abyss. Right. With her unwavering love and compassion.
Some critics argue that Lucie is, too good to be true.
Okay.
They say she's like a symbol of idealized femininity.
Okay.
Rather than like a fully fleshed out character.
Yeah.
But I think that misses the point.
Okay.
She represents the kind of hope and resilience that Dickens believes is essential for survival.
Right.
Especially in times of crisis.
Yeah, she's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love and compassion can be powerful forces for healing and change. But the revolution, though, it isn't just about individual struggles. It's about a society ripping itself apart at the seams.
Exactly. And that's where Dickens's portrayal of the Defarges becomes so important.
Right.
They represent, I think, the rage and the resentment that's brewing beneath the surface of French society.
Right.
The simmering discontent that ultimately explodes into violence.
Yeah, you see that rage most vividly in Madame Defarge.
Oh, absolutely.
She's like a force of nature, right?
Yeah.
Constantly knitting. But instead of creating warmth and comfort, she's weaving this tapestry of vengeance, recording the names of those doomed to fall under the guillotine's blade.
And one of the critical essays we have actually delves into the symbolism of her knitting.
Right.
It argues that her needles represent the tools of revolution.
Okay.
Capable of both creation and destruction.
Right.
And the act of knitting itself, it becomes a metaphor.
Okay.
For the revolution's relentless momentum. It's unstoppable.
It's chilling, and you could practically smell like the blood and wine mingling in the air.
Oh, yeah.
Of their wine shop.
Heavy.
This gathering place for revolutionaries where whispers of conspiracy turn into shouts for blood.
That wine shop is such a microcosm of the revolution itself.
Right.
It's a place where the lines between right and wrong, they become blurred.
Right.
Justice and vengeance, they're intertwined.
Yes.
And it raises an important question, I think. When a society is pushed to its breaking point, can violence ever be truly justified?
It's a good question.
Yeah. And as the revolution, gains momentum, you really see how this wave of unrest just crashes over individuals, even those who try to distance themselves from it.
Right.
Take Charles Darnay, for example.
Right. Okay.
He renounces his family's wealth and title, flees to England, builds a new life, seems to have escaped the revolution's pull, right?
Yeah.
But the past has a way of catching up.
It does. It always does. It always does.
It really does.
Yeah.
And that's where Dickens, I think, explores this idea that you can't outrun your history. You can't outrun your lineage.
Right.
Despite all of Darnay's efforts, he's drawn back to Paris.
Right.
A city on fire, fueled by the very revolution he tried to leave behind.
He gets a letter, right?
Yes.
A plea for help from a former servant.
Right.
This small act of compassion.
Yes.
With huge consequences.
Absolutely. That decision to return to Paris, I think it highlights Darnay's inherent goodness.
Okay.
But it's also a bit naive, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so.
He underestimates the revolution's reach.
Yeah.
The depth of the anger that's directed at anyone, really, connected to the aristocracy.
And that naivete lands him in, one of the most terrifying settings in the book.
Oh, yeah.
LaForce prison.
Dickens' descriptions of LaForce are visceral, almost claustrophobic.
Yes.
You can practically feel the despair just seeping from the walls, the constant threat of violence.
It's a stark reminder, right, of how quickly the revolution devolved into this system of arbitrary arrests.
Yes.
Where suspicion was enough to condemn a person.
Right, right.
And suddenly Darnay's noble lineage, something he tried to reject, becomes his biggest liability.
It really does. And his imprisonment also speaks to, I think, the fragility of social order. One minute you're a respected lawyer, you're enjoying a peaceful life.
Right.
And the next you're stripped of your freedom, reduced to a number in this system that's lost all sense of justice.
Yeah, but even in this, bleak environment, right?
Yeah.
There's light.
There is.
Lucie, she refuses to give up.
She's amazing.
Her devotion to Darnay just shines through. It shines through the darkness.
Yes.
It's like a testament to the enduring power of love.
She's willing to risk everything to save her husband.
Yes.
Tirelessly working behind the scenes, leveraging Doctor Manette's influence to secure Darnay's release.
Right. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
Yes.
The refusal to succumb to despair, even when all hope seems lost.
It's inspiring.
And for a while, it seems like love has triumphed.
It does.
Darnay is acquitted. He's free.
Yes. But this is a Dickens novel, so we know that moment of peace is fleeting.
Right, right.
The revolution has a long memory.
Yeah.
And there are forces at play that aren't interested in justice or mercy.
Right.
The Defarges, in particular, they see Darnay's release as a personal affront.
Okay.
A challenge to their, revolutionary ideals.
They're not happy. Remember that tapestry of vengeance that Madame Defarge is knitting?
Oh, yes.
Darnay's his name is woven into its fabric.
It is.
His family's past, the injustices they represent, those threads are too tightly bound to be easily severed.
Their relentless pursuit of vengeance really makes you question the very nature of revolution.
Right.
Can a movement fueled by hatred and retribution ever truly bring about lasting change?
That's a good question.
It's a question Dickens seems to be grappling with, I think.
Yeah.
Prompting the reader to consider the complexities of morality during these times of upheaval. Can you fight for justice without becoming the monster you're trying to defeat?
And just as Darnay starts to rebuild his life, believing he's escaped the clutches of the revolution,
right,
he's arrested again.
Yeah. Ugh.
This time the charges come directly from the Defarges.
It's a clear setup.
Yeah.
Driven by their vendetta. You see how easily the Revolutionary Tribunal becomes a tool for settling scores, a perversion of justice in the name of this supposed greater good.
The tension is almost unbearable at this point.
Yeah.
The shadow of the guillotine, it looms over everything. And, Darnay's fate, it hangs precariously in the balance.
It's classic Dickens, this buildup of suspense, this sense of impending doom.
Right.
And you can't help but wonder, is there any way out of this? Is there any hope for Darnay?
And that's where Sidney Carton, the seemingly apathetic, cynical figure, reemerges.
Yeah.
But this time, something has shifted within him.
Yeah, it's like he's been awakened from this long slumber.
Right.
Realizing, there's more to life than just existing, than just drowning in his own self-pity.
That's a great point. I think Carton's love for Lucie really becomes this catalyst for change for him,
pushing him to confront his own demons and strive for something greater than himself.
Yeah, and this is where Dickens, I think, so masterfully weaves his plot.
Yes.
He's been dropping hints all along about this uncanny resemblance between Carton and Darnay.
Right, and it's more than just physical resemblance, too, I think. Yeah. They both share this, sense of nobility.
Right.
This deep-seated compassion that's been buried under, layers of cynicism and despair.
So when all seems lost, right, for Darnay, Carton hatches this audacious plan.
He does.
This intricate scheme to switch places with him.
Yes.
To use their resemblance to outsmart the revolutionaries.
It's brilliant. And one of the psychological analyses we have actually suggests that Carton's decision isn't just about saving Darnay.
Okay.
It's about saving himself. It's about proving his own worth.
Right.
Not just to Lucie, but to himself as well.
He spent so much of his life, right, feeling like a failure, feeling like a shadow of the man he could be.
Yeah, and in this one selfless act, he finds a way to transcend his own limitations, to become the hero he always, longed to be.
And what's so striking is that Carton embraces his fate.
Yeah.
With a sense of peace, even joy.
He does.
Remember that scene in the prison cell?
Oh, yes.
Where he comforts the young seamstress who's also condemned to die?
Yes.
He recites, the words of the Bible, offering her solace and hope in the face of death.
It's such a moving scene, so full of compassion and grace.
Yes.
It shows that Carton has found a kind of redemption, a way to make meaning out of his life, even if it's a life that ends far too soon.
And those famous last lines?
Yes.
As he's being led to the guillotine?
Yeah.
It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I've ever known.
Yes.
They encapsulate, right, that sense of peace.
Yes.
That acceptance of his fate as a form of transcendence.
It's beautiful. It's a powerful ending.
It is.
One that stays with you long after you close the book.
Yes.
It makes you think about the nature of sacrifice, the meaning of redemption,
the
enduring power of love.
And it speaks to something universal within us, I think.
I think so, too.
That desire to make a difference, to leave the world a little better than we found it.
Yes.
Even if it means, making the ultimate sacrifice. A Tale of Two Cities, it may be set in the past.
Right.
But its themes, they resonate with us today.
Right.
I mean, we're still grappling with issues of social injustice,
absolutely,
inequality, the human cost of conflict.
And Dickens reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope. There's always the potential for redemption, for individuals to rise above their circumstances and make choices that bring light into the world.
So we've come to the end of our exploration of A Tale of Two Cities, but the conversation, it doesn't have to end here.
Yeah.
This is a book that begs to be reread, reinterpreted, discussed, and debated.
I think the best way to honor Dickens's work is to ask ourselves, what are our own tales of two cities?
Right.
Where do we see those same themes playing out in our own lives, in our own communities, in the world around us?
What choices can we make to fight for justice, to embrace compassion, to make our own small contributions to a better world?
Yeah.
What will your legacy be? Food for thought. Until next time.